And I think the natural question that we ask after this happens is what's next? Like, what do the Chiefs go
Mhm.
for after this? I know we kind of toyed around, with the draft. We thought, well, maybe the Chiefs could go somewhere else besides offensive line, but it seems pretty certain now that it seems like they're going to go offensive line. It does depend on free agency now. March 17th will have a little bit clearer of a picture of what the Chiefs are going to do. Maybe they trade for Orlando Brown. Maybe they sign Trent Williams. Maybe they
Ugh.
sign Corey Linsley. There's many options they can do, right? There's a plethora of options. So, Connor, I'm curious, what do you think is next for this Kansas City Chiefs offensive line?
I just want to say first off, I do not want to trade for Orlando Brown. Um,
Yep.
please God, no. We would have to spend draft capital on him, and we would have to re-sign him unless we want to keep him for 1 year. I don't know why we would do that when we have to send a second or more to the Ravens. I don't know if they would even trade him to us because they're
Bingo.
competing with us in the
Yep.
AFC. So I think Trent Brown is completely off the table. Orlando Brown, sorry. Trent Brown just got traded for peanuts to the Patriots. That would have been a
He
move I would
did.
be interested in.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with him not being in on that because he's had motivation issues with the Raiders. He came into camp apparently 400 pounds last offseason.
It's a big boy.
So I kind
It's a
of
big.
don't
That's
want
a lot
to.
of five guys. I'm just
Holy
saying.
That's
cow.
that's like 10 guys, honestly.
Kind of, yeah.
So, but there is options for the Chiefs. I went over the options in my 7 days of free agency article about the offensive line. It's a weirdly deep tackle and even guard class in free agency this year. It usually isn't like there's 5 starters, 10 starters, somewhere in that range in the free agency class. Some of them are going to be one year rental guys like Kelvin Beachum, but the Chiefs could sign Kelvin Beachum and expect to have average play at the tackle spot, which is a big bonus for them if they, let's say, they don't think they could get the rookies they want in the draft or something of that sort. So, but I mean, I think everybody, we talked about him a lot today on Twitter and Chiefs Reddit and everywhere. I'm personally expecting Lucas Niang to start at right tackle. Um,
Yeah.
we've heard Brett Veach already talk him up. We haven't even seen him play, and he's already talking him up. And when Brett Veach has a guy, um, he likes the guy. So I think he's been calling him last year. Apparently, he called him every week, kind of like a girlfriend that you broke up with. So I'm expecting him to start at right tackle. They might bring in a vet to like a proven vet. They might re-sign Mike Rimmers. I don't know. I think they'll have somebody behind him, but I think Niang's the starter at right tackle. But there's still a huge question mark at left tackle.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think that Niang does probably slide in at right tackle. I mean, unless the Chiefs take 2 tackles, then maybe you put Niang at left guard. But I still, based on what they think about him, I agree with Connor on that. And then really, I think Tucker, your initial question was what's next for them.
Hmm.
I got no clue, but I do know that Brett Veach has an ace up his sleeve. He didn't just say he's going to make those moves.
Corey
And
Linsley, please.
yes, Corey Linsley would be cool. It's got to be a series of moves. It's not going to be one thing. The offensive line needs an overhaul. So I think that Veach is going to keep his cards close and not let people see them, but then also maybe shock everybody with stuff he does.
And you guys both mentioned it. The depth in this offensive line free agent class and draft class is insane. It's a great year, I guess, for the Chiefs to completely overhaul their offensive line. If they could have picked a year to do it, this is probably the best year they could. And when we talk about the offensive line, sometimes we get into talking about offensive linemen at 31. Obviously, I personally think that's where the Chiefs are going to go, but they could also take another offensive lineman further down in the draft because they're going to need depth pieces. When you look at who the Chiefs have on contract, you have Martinez Rankin, who we don't know if he's actually a real human being or not. It's still yet to see. We have Yasir Durant. They're going to have Nick Allegretti, and then you have Daryl Williams, the center from Mississippi State. You have Wiseman, Brian Wiseman, the guard on a futures contract, and then you got Prince. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, but you guys know who he is by now. Those are your depth pieces. So when it comes to the draft, I think the draft is going to be very important in terms of addressing the depth. Now, I think that the Chiefs can find some very good talent later in the late mid rounds in terms of tackles. I think they can find some good talent. And, Brady Christensen is one of those guys that I think that probably could start. If he had to, he could start and be a very competent tackle. Spencer Brown, another guy that I think could do the same thing. But they would also benefit from sitting a year. And if they're able to sit a year, like Nick Allegretti, and able to kind of learn the system, learn with Andy Heck, I think that he is one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. Kind of get their legs underneath them, I guess, get their NFL legs on them. I think that'll only make it better for the long term for the Kansas City Chiefs. So while we talk about offensive line a whole lot, the Alex Leatherwoods, the Tevin Jenkins, Jalen Mayfield, you know, Rashawn Slater.
Liam
I want to talk about
Eichenberg.
him. Yes, Liam Eichenberg. There's a ton of guys out there that will be very valuable at 31. Like if you take Liam Eichenberg at 31, I still think that's a valuable pick, even though he might be slated as an early second round pick. I still think that's very valuable for the Chiefs to take Liam Eichenberg there. Samuel Cosme, a guy that just had his pro day, he ran like a 4.8, I think.
I'm big on Cosme.
He did a 36 at the bench press. Rashawn Slater did 33. So I mean, and bench press is kind of one of those lifts that does translate a little bit, especially for offensive linemen when it comes to the punch and the push. I know they like it for the defensive linemen too, but I think the linemen in general, it's one of those lifts that translate that and squat. We saw with Sean Slater front squat 495. My wrist hurt after watching that video. But
my back hurt.
Yeah. He's an absolute machine. And I said this on another podcast, but if you guys ever see any offensive lineman workout videos, please send them to me at Tucker D. Franklin, because I love to watch them and I will automatically share any offensive lineman videos. We've seen Landon Dickerson work out in overalls. We've seen him. What did he do? The straight leg deadlift with the I don't remember what trophy it's called. The best center in the country trophy. He did a straight leg deadlift with it on his bad knee. So I mean, I love watching all those videos, and there are some really good guys. And Connor, you and I had a conversation on Twitter about the tackles. It seems like there always is one of those, upper end guys that fall down to like the 31 range that the Chiefs could have a chance to get. Cosme, one of them. We sometimes see AVT fall down there in that 31 range when we're running the simulations. What do you think the Chiefs at 31 really do? I think the offensive tackle, but do you think they try to draft a guy to start right away, or do you think it's more of a depth piece?
See, the issue will be, I don't know. Getting a starting left tackle before the draft means they trade for one or they sign one.
Yeah.
The trading will be Orlando Brown. I already said my piece on him. The signing one would be somebody like Trent Williams. It could be Alejandro Villanueva. Or there was one more tackle too. I actually forgot who it was. There's a third starting tackle also available in free agency. But 3 still kind of pinches it, and it'll drive up those prices for those guys. Trent Williams is going to probably get the top tier money. Alejandro Villanueva will get some nice money, 15 mil a year. So will the other person I'm completely blanking on right now. So that means the Chiefs have to be in that market and sign one of those guys before the draft, or they are going to draft their left tackle of the future. They could do a Kelvin Beachum, swing him for a year, I guess, if they wanted to. I'm personally fine with throwing a rookie into the fire a bit, honestly. I trust Andy Heck and Andy Reid to get that offensive lineman ready. They're 2 of the best at developing offensive linemen. The Chiefs have turned a pretty rags offensive line group to riches. Last year, they were top 12 in pass block win rate, I believe. Now, the run block win rate, let's not talk about because we're last in the league. But, pass block win rate, that's all we do. So that's all that's important.
Fair.
So I think I'm personally hoping, because this is a better roster building strategy, I feel, to sign Corey Linsley, 12 mil a year, and then draft the left tackle. Because left tackle going rates right now for good ones is over 20 million a year. That's not something that Chiefs can swing soon. Maybe in the later years of Mahomes' deal, we don't know who will be on the roster then, so they might be able to splurge. For right now, they can't. So a rookie left tackle would be huge for the roster building in the future.